yeah. Yes, I am. There we go.
Welcome to Clackamas County Developmental Disability Council meeting agenda. Do we have quorum? My first question.
Let's see here. There we go.
Oh.
I show 5.
Yep.
So yes, we have quorum.
Glad to see you guys. First order of business would be probably approval of the minutes. I hope you guys had an opportunity to read them. Kim, please keep me in check. I would appreciate that. Hello?
I'm sorry, I just have one question. How
No,
many
please.
people do we have here that are actually on the council?
We have 1, 2, 3,
Colleen,
4,
John,
5.
Mimi, and Sarah.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Okay.
And
Thanks.
now Lisa. Yeah, I think we just need 4.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So as discussed, I think we were doing approval of minutes. I hope everyone got to read them. They were such a joy to read in this last round as they were very detailed. I guess what I'm going to say is, does anyone have a vote to approve minutes? I believe, do we need a 1, 2, 3, or do we just approve them as given? Question mark?
Somebody want to make a move to approve the minutes as is?
Thank you, Kim.
I'll make a motion.
It sounds like Sarah Strazak puts in a yes with a mute button. So a thumbs up. It's okay.
Oh my goodness, someday I'll learn.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a yes. I'll second that.
Absolutely. So I will seek approval as distributed. Do I hear any objections? By hearing no objections, it sounds like the council has approved the minutes for 10/12 and for what's the other date of officially, Amy? Can we get that on record?
Got it.
It was for 10/23 and 1/22.
Okay, as approved of 1/22 and 10/23 or whatnot. That was just explained by Kim. Motions have been approved for the minutes. Next sign of business would be, sounds like we're going ahead of schedule. It looks like we've had a discussion within the council, within North Clackamas Park and adult services and offerings that were given. And I was hoping that we would have other guests included, but I appreciate the time of North Clackamas Aquatic Parks coming in for today. I appreciate your time. And first thing, I would like to introduce Jason and maybe an introduction of yourself, what you provide, over your career, skill sets and whatnot, and how we can niche this conversation into a full park view into what your niche skill sets would be fantastic. Welcome to the council.
Thank you very much, John, and good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Kemrick. I'm the Aquatic Park Manager. And so we had a couple questions sent to us from the group, it appears. And so the various managers of each department submitted answers that I'll do my best to kind of read through your questions and the answers, if that works for you. And then additionally, we can kind of go on, and it's a good chance for me to take notes and take back to the group and see however else we can help support. The first question we had was, what kind of DD specific activities, opportunities is NCPRD providing for social inclusion? NCPRD offers many DD specific offerings from youth and adults, and they are as follows currently: winter, spring, and summer social events, ages 15 and up, a fall Halloween costume dance, ages 15 and up, the Rising Stars Soccer League, ages 8 to 25, the Spring Hawaiian Nights Dance, ages 15 and up, Summer Camp Event Series, which are 6 3-hour-long Wednesday morning camps, ages 12 and up, Dance and Cheer Stars, Adaptive and Inclusion Team, ages 12 to 25, Shooting Stars Basketball League, ages 5 and up, and then monthly sensory swims now, ages 3 and up. So to name a couple of them there. Any sub questions to that question number 1 and the answers at all? Looks like maybe Sarah.
I have a question. Yes.
Please.
So my biggest question would be on the age categories. So I am an adult foster care provider for adults with IDD, and so we're 18 and And one of the complications that I find is adult only, meaning 18 and over, activities or group functions. So when I see things like 15 and up, it makes me worried that if I bring my 18 and up adults, there could be some issues because they don't always understand the difference in age. And a lot of times when they go to dances or different functions, there's a romantic aspect to that. And so my fear is that maybe a 15-year-old and an 18 or a 20-year-old, might embark on something romantic. So is there any sort of, like, when you say 15 and up, do you separate groups so that it's adult only, or how does that work exactly?
That's a great question. And again, as John kind of mentioned earlier, I can speak best to aquatic programming. So what I'll do is take a lot of notes for you guys clearly here. And so I think that's a great question. And I think I got most of it written down there. And I'll find out for you specifically, because the programs like you were naming there are typically under our rec umbrella or under our sports umbrella. There's kind of different divisions, if you will, and each one is doing their best to add more, as we call A&I programming. So yeah, let me get clarity for you on if there's a differential between 18 and up versus when it says 15 and up, and how they separate the programs and everything.
Perfect.
Thank you, Sarah.
Appreciate it. Hopefully the other councils outside my own desires and ways of this topic. I really appreciate Sarah Lambert's, desire for this topic too. So please put it on the council view rather than just my own. One thing that I found very insulting within the NCPD side was that how they put teen opportunities into youth services or young adult opportunities into youth services. There was a dance, for example, inside of the youth programming a couple of months or a year ago or so. I just want to keep the reminder of the languages within the district that even though maybe certain aspects of the volunteer aspect within a dynamic might be, youth driven in ways that sometimes people who are over the age of 21 might need to be considered as a young adult, give or take the legal precedence in ways of that. I understand the way that we were conditioned in many ways and groomed into this type of community on the non-DD side. But I just want to give Clackamas County and the partners the reminder that there are some incidents that 30-year-olds, 40, 50, 60-year-olds are adults sometimes, and should maybe be considered under the purview of adult services rather than just a brother and sister relationship within a certain aspect of that type of thing. Another thing that I can sympathize with you is that sometimes DHS classifies a child at 20, sometimes ODDS classifies children at 21, and sometimes people are enacting other career skill sets at 18 are considered adults. So I do sympathize with you, Jason, within, the purview of government services, but it would be nice to know, what is an adult and what is not within the services that are given within these types of park opportunities. If it's an intramural sports or a sports that's going out, a rec league in volleyball, for example, versus a all-star soccer game, soccer thing for youth services. Thanks for letting me point out this concern as we have our conversation and continuing this collaboration within North Clackamas Park and what is offered. My hands are down now as an advocate for now.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I took notes on that as well. Question number 2 that we did, just make sure, did I miss anybody else? Amy, sorry.
Oh, I didn't. Sarah, did you have your hand up?
I did, and actually it was just to say, you said 3 and up. I mean, that makes me assume it's all ages then. It's adults and toddlers and things for the Century Swim that goes up into just
Yes.
all ages. Yeah.
All ages.
And then also, I just wanted to let you know that I don't know if you're familiar with Kiwanis Camp, with Mount Hood Kiwanis Camp, but they are super strict on age. And they have a teen camp that's, I think it's like 12 to 17 or something like that. And then they have 18 to 30 as one of their designations. And then 20, I believe it's 25 and up. And if you are turning 18, but all your friends are in the 17 camp, forget it. They're not going to. They're very, very, very strict in terms of what they identify as an adult and how they separate out the group. So just neither here nor there, just to give you a little insight on what another organization is doing.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sarah.
The only other things I was gonna say, one for the whole, I see Shasta asked if there was a link for this information or a list of the resources that you stated, Jason. I don't know if you can send a link maybe that I can pass along.
I will do my best to gather up some stuff for you. Traditionally, most of our stuff is logged on our web, and so I'll get you our landing page as well as our catalog where everything is registered and so forth has a dedicated tab to the
Okay.
program. I'll get you both, Amy. Thank you.
And then I guess there's two more things. The other thing was that Johnny Glenn, I think that's the right name. I feel like I've heard John say that name before, so I feel like I'm saying it right. Reached out to me via email on Friday. So I just got that email and they're interested in seeing how they can have better outreach. So I thought that might be a good idea for us to maybe have him join us maybe in a next meeting.
Okay.
So that'll plant that there.
Johnny's preferred pronouns are female, she, her.
Okay,
And
thank you.
yeah, no, that's okay. She's
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
coordinators in our sports department. I love it. Good. I'm glad to
Okay.
make connections with you.
Yeah.
Great.
My
And then
scouting
lastly-
reports on volleyball with her.
And then lastly, Jason, you shared with me regarding the aquatic swim, because we kind of talked over the phone about how those weren't very frequent and why they were only I think like once a month.
Mhm.
I don't know if that might be helpful. It was helpful for me to hear the why it wasn't scheduled more often, or maybe why it wasn't different age groups and things like that.
Yeah, no,
maybe you
let me
could share
jump
that.
out of order. Just real quick. So anything else on question 1? Because I think question 3 you sent me, I can address that a little bit more maybe.
Jason, if you can give me, Sasha, I see your hand, but if I get a reminder of that question and then we can continue the conversation. Question 1 was what, Jason?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. I wasn't tracking there.
No,
It's
it's
what
all right.
kind of DD specific activities, opportunities is NCPRD providing for social inclusion?
Thank you. Sasha, please.
Yeah, I was just I arrived late, so I don't know what's going on really, but you were reading off of a list. Can we have that list?
Yeah, I can definitely as well type that up. How does that sound?
Okay.
And I'll submit it back through Amy there as well as the links. That sounds great.
Absolutely. And then I guess I'll raise my hand one more time on the offerings. And this might be later on, Jason, and I understand where we are culturally. But are there any collaborations within other county resources within the sports or the offerings that North Clackamas Park offers that could help others be more included in other opportunities outside of just the one-time opportunities that North Clackamas Park might give? For example, like cheerleading. For example, definitely 12 to 15-year-old Thunder Elite cheerleading, for example. All my friends used to go to that, those type of gyms and ways of collaborations. I'm not asking for Thunder Elite to give free certain things, but how are they included in other functions within another function within what's offered within North Clackamas Parks? Wow, what you guys are offering. Well, we're not at that point for that part of the conversation as we can continue to move on with today's reality.
Right. No, good question, John. And I'll kind of type it up and try to get a little bit more feedback. Again, that's kind of a specialized area that I don't know as much about and what collaborations they're working on. I definitely on the sensory swim, I could speak to that collaborative wise. We're trying to evaluate on sensory swims, and to back up in case you didn't know, I'm very excited that we are starting a new program, and it started up since October. I've been working very hard to get this going, and inevitably the challenge, as we all know, is at the core of it, funding and staffing, right? And so, but we've successfully pulled together at least monthly swims, which I'm so excited about. We've worked with a lot of local resources to try to dial it in as best we could ahead of time of things that we thought the clientele would appreciate, all the way from quiet areas to dimmed lights, reduced noise, really make it an inviting environment for people to bond and experience aquatics, which I think is the greatest environment ever. I'm a little selfish, so I'm just going to toot that horn. But that being said, on the collaborative, I can say, one of the hiccups we're having is trying to figure out how we can partner without discriminating against different businesses and entities, because again, as you pointed out, we are county, we are a department of the county, so we have to fall under all those rules, for a lack of a better term that I can come up with. And so I'm in discussions actually with a combination of purchasing and so forth of, what would be the public process to allow, say, a vendor that works with individuals with a certain disability that wants to set up a booth or might want to contribute money towards this and so forth. But at the same time, they of course want to advertise their private business for profit name. And so figuring out how do we do that in a government ethical process to involve that outside help successfully and not accidentally, not allow somebody else to do it, obviously. So that is one of the things on the collaborative note. I would define us very much in the infant to toddler stage of our sensory swims. We've just got them up and running. We've done 3 so far. And our last one, we were super excited. We got up to about 45 participants. So that was huge for us. The first 2 had a little bit less than 20. I think the first one only had about 11 or 12 come. So some programming just takes inertia to build. Some of it is also working on that collaboration. And we obviously don't want it to get too big either. We're capping those at 100. So our dream would be about 100 per session would be the absolute sweet spot. And then maybe start to look at maybe more than 1 a month at that point, creating opportunities. Again, funding will be a different topic as we kind of get down, because I got so far okayed for once a month.
No.
And so I kind of diverged there, but did I kind of hit your notes on it, John, on part of it that I could speak to?
We're doing what we do in the cultural context of what we have. Clackamas County, did you have any questions on how we can collaborate within that type of relationship or a call to action? Or should we just give it to the community partners for now? Question, Mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we
Okay.
have anything right at the moment.
All right. As long as we have a happy environment for all of us as we try to navigate through this conversation. Thank you. All right, second question, unless others have other questions they would like to ask. Sounds like not. Or is
Yeah,
it- Yeah, okay,
um,
Sasha, please.
Oh, thank you. So Jason, I just sorry I'm late and not really sure what's going on here, but we have to travel an hour to get to a power wheelchair soccer thing in Hillsborough. And the event center there had like a list of all of these inclusive activities, things for teens, like bingo night and movie night and like a dance, and things like that. And I was like, oh my God, my kids would love this, but we don't live in Hillsborough and that's really far away. So, programming like that, we would be greatly interested in because CPRD is not as far away for us. So.
Yeah. That is awesome. That's good feedback, Chester. I definitely think we're trying to grow our programming. That was the list, and I'll send it out so you'll see what we've got so far that we're growing. I think that's a great. I love that you drew the attention. Hillsborough is amazing. If NCPRD could have that same tax base, it would be phenomenal. I'd go as far as say guarantee if we had that kind of money, we could rock the programming out of the park. Because I want to say there, to put it in reference, North Clackamas is the lowest tax base I'm aware of for a Parks and Recreation Service district at 53 cents per 1,000 on a home. And so we have a very, very, very small budget compared to the players like Hillsborough, T Hills, Lake Oswego, all the others around us have massive, massive funding available to them. And at the very base of it, that's what it boils down to is how we can try to spread that dollar out as best as possible. And again, we have a different population size than Hillsborough too. We're only about 105,000 people in our district boundary. So we have a very small parks district too. So a small tax base with a small population kind of sets the limiters, and that kind of segues to what Amy and I got to talk about, that really our boundaries confine us a little bit in those 2 regards. I think as someone approaching retirement, I will say I'm very optimistic as I look forward to the future that, I think parks districts will hopefully be prioritized more and more in tax bases and allow for then more money means more programming, more opportunities, magical fields like you're talking about there. I mean, it would be wonderful to have a turf field. Right now it'd be wonderful to have a sports field that was ours. So,
This is
it's
power chair soccer's in a gym, but yeah, I
a gym.
understand.
Yeah, we just got our first gym sort of in 3 elementary schools, and so I think there's so much opportunity out there, and that's why, like, personally, I'm really passionate on aquatics and getting those opportunities, as much as I can, fit them in and make them a priority, and then take feedback and see how we continue to improve. But that's at the core of it. Thank you, Shasta. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mimi, I'm sorry, get my name wrong. Colleen, would you guys have any questions on what the offerings of what's given? For myself, maybe I'm looking at you, Colleen, or others, is that I know the importance of class givings and givings of, certain community opportunities on the non-DD side, in ways of how important that is to, create connections within the county and stuff like that. Definitely when I was in high school, sign language, where disability services never wanted to give it to me. They took, certain revenge factors with a hearing disability, not IDD related, and certain other aspects. So for me, I had opportunities to do these type of classes and resources within, as a teenager, in ways of those opportunities. It's not because of North Clackamas Park, but it's because, those outreaches were available to the county. Is there anything that I might be forgetting in today's conversation of what's offered that might help your particular people and what you guys serve and who you serve, or even personally in trying to learn more about, certain topic points? I'm not trying to, if you don't have a comment, that's okay, but.
No, I mean, it's a good opportunity always. If there is something that's offered to our clients, it's always greatly appreciated, and I'm glad to see there is a schedule of opportunities out there, and we'll try to bring our clients with staff, with ourselves, to try it out. Sometimes it could be a little bit overwhelming, as we all know, but we'll try to make it happen, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. And Colleen, I'm okay if you don't have anything. I just want to make sure you guys feel included on conversation. With the lowest of 53 cents per the $1,000, Jason, on what's offered and everything like that, did that decrease because you can deny request on this question, okay? I'm gonna ask it because I know it's important, because it's where I live and where I went to school with, okay? So please forgive me on it, but because of Happy Valley and Milwaukee separating from North Clackamas Parks and Rec, are the dollars getting smaller and the opportunities getting lower because of those two districts? Or is it as a whole okay and the same in ways to the offerings in the future? So when we have this conversation, we know that there are opportunities to continue to collaborate and expand North Clackamas Parks and Rec.
Yeah, so what I will say is definitely a great question for a much higher pay grade than me on those two. I'm going to defer that one. But what I will say is, on just a surface level, what I can speak to is less individuals part of the larger organization paying taxes inherently lowers the total amount of money collected. So I think to the part of what you're saying, I can say, with 18,000-ish people in Happy Valley leaving, that's 18,000 people's homes that would have paid 53 cents per thousand that no longer do, right? Yeah. And if Milwaukee leaves, same thing, and admittedly, sometimes there's a reduction in outgoing fees. So sometimes that net isn't as drastic as it sounds just at a surface level. But ultimately, that's a great question for much higher up than me, for sure.
And I don't want to put any pool within Clackamas County or what they're going through. I'm not going to go journalist on that side of it. I'll let other ends hit that. But I just want to make sure that we know in this conversation space that we still have options. And we're hoping that we can have that. I was hoping that we can have that conversation as question 1 wraps up and we go into question 2. Sasha?
Sorry, I just
Please, no, you asked a question of finance. I asked mine.
Yeah, I just want to note that inclusion doesn't have to be expensive. The things that I talked about, movie night and stuff, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
Oh.
No, I love that. And I think you're right. I think that's, again, my wheelhouse is, of course, aquatics. And unfortunately, everything with a pool is expensive. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They're just super expensive. The amount of staff it takes to have the lifeguards out there. So it's a big lift. And again, why it's probably one of my highlights as I hit the end of my tenure here. of getting this program going, because the cost per session is massive to run a sensory night. And it's just the reality of when you have to pay 12 to 20 staff members to open the building. And then that doesn't even discuss utilities. As you can imagine, if any of you have ever had a hot tub or a pool, even, I mean, the cost of water and utilities, any of you pay PGE, that raise in the rates, you multiply that times our utility, which is 6 figures, is an impressive ding to the operation. And so, but I agree with you. I think there are some huge opportunities in the other genres of recreation and sports potentially, and I think that's why they're working diligently and trying to make some of that happen for sure.
I gave Johnny a couple of slide decks on another idea saying about Winterhawks and, you know, certain opportunities. So hopefully we'll include those in the other conversation spaces. But
Absolutely.
I appreciate question 2, and thank you, Sasha, for the question. I agree.
Question number 2 was, how does NCPRD differentiate youth events versus young adult events and the combination of those events, which I think we kind of broadly started talking about. And I think I have a little better understanding what we were going towards this question. So I'll bring that back to staff, but I'll at least read the answer I got from staff for you now, but I think I understand more. But the answer that was crafted was, typically our DD specific activities and programs offer opportunities for most stages to participate. However, our Shooting Stars basketball program does somewhat differentiate due to its broader participant age group. Little Dipper serves participants ages 5 to 14 and offers lower hoops, whereas Big Dipper serves ages 12 and up, and the hoops are adjusted approximately 2 to 4 feet higher. But now hearing a little bit more, you get so much more than you get in just a written question always. And so I think I can kind of ping more to the group and try to get a little broader answer and more of the minutia of what I think you were seeking in that too. But at least that was the answer I had to read to you.
I think I clarified what from my stance are definitely with the allograms and other, you know, sign up factors and stuff. Sarah Lambert, would you want to follow up more on that, or we can have that conversation later with other directors? I think we've hit it, but I just want to make sure that
Yeah, I think we hit it. I'm satisfied with waiting and seeing, you know, kind of what comes of it. I just know that, you know, it was, my worry was the kind of more romantic side of things, you know, understanding age differences, but also like some of the individuals in my home, they might want to participate in activity, but if they go into that room or gymnasium or pool and there's just a bunch of like 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds, they're not going to feel like they're very welcome and that that's something appropriate for them. So that's the only other little piece to it. But my biggest concern was more of the other side of things. So thank you. I'm excited to hear what they have to say.
Me too. Me too. And I'll add one more thing maybe for your notes, Jason, though we have to usually only have to work with kids first in certain studies to, you know, boost up the programs and stuff. We work in many different levels of services levels. And so we have 1 to 5 in certain kind of like your skills to your other, you know, opportunities and ways of learning how to swim kind of thing. For myself, though, I am happy with what's being talked about is I have to learn, for example, how to swim an Olympic sized pool 3 times back and forth before my natural support dies, for example. And that's unusual when you hear those types of, you know, levels, you know, in ways of what you're thinking of versus maybe, you know, certain other aspects. I'm not looking for, you know, advanced swim, you know, levels, but just think about that while we continue that type of, you know, this type of conversation within this space on age, demographics, and how we move forward with that. That would be greatly appreciated. Within, you know, we still providing services for lower levels, but still understand there might be support staff or services in others doing adult foster home. Just like the only time they get to go out sometimes is those dances and those opportunities that North Clackamas, you know, sometimes provides. All right, that's the age.
I can't speak for all adult foster homes, but we have a lot of community engagement. And so in my personal home, we have a lot of folks that have day programs or activities or jobs or jobs in the community as well. And then we provide things too. But like activities in the community. But then again, when I provide it, it's with everyone in the house. So it's kind of nice to have, you know, like engagement with different adults, people that they don't live with, you know, necessarily, to make new friends and things like that. And that's why the activities are really important, is because they get to meet individuals that maybe they don't get to meet at their job or in their home or at their day program. So
Okay.
it's kind of it's nice to get, you know, more people,
Thank you for
basically.
following that up, Sarah. I appreciate it. In
Mhm.
ways of trying to understand how we move forward. I think on the age thing, I'm done as an advocate and a chair, if anyone else had anything, but I think we're going to the next question, Jason.
Great, thank you. How do we advocate more swimming activities for people with higher sensory needs? We kind of talked a little bit about this already, but yeah, the big one that we're working on right now are sensory swims. So we started those back in October. And again, we're super excited here at the aquatics end of it to make this and get this to the finish line. My obvious dream would be that we start seeing a real groundswell and a regular attendance, which would help justify potentially more sessions down the road, as well as you kind of mentioned, collaborations and sponsorships. We're kind of working on that on a whole separate note, but there's a real process to that, of course. So it's like all things, a bit like molasses. It's just there, it doesn't move super quick, but at a minimum, we're getting these out there. We're very excited. I think the other one to kind of share sub-theme to this question was, you know, where we are and where we're kind of headed. So in 2022, 2023, because we do fiscal year stats, we had 256 participants in our A&I programming. And 75% of those participants were in-district residents. So that's super exciting. That's kind of our goal set, obviously, is to serve those residents as much as possible. But on an exciting note, with that 256 from the previous year, you know, and that we've had, you know, almost 100 just in our first 3 sensory swims. So I think we're hitting a much larger population already, and I'm hoping to kind of continue that momentum, of course.
Any questions on that?
Jason, can you clarify what the A and I is one more time? I think you said it before, but just,
Adaptive and inclusion.
okay, thank you.
Mhm. And Amy, did I end up kind of circling back to the things we talked about? I just totally apologize. I can't remember all the details.
No,
when we
I
talked.
think when we talked, I think one thing that really stood out for me was like, why aren't we having more sensory hours? And it was kind of like the attendance thing, like, you know, if we can get more people to go, then that, you know, creates you know, a reason that we should have more opportunities. So I mean, that kind of made sense for me. And then also just reminding people that that North Clackamas isn't all of Clackamas, right? That it's just a portion of Clackamas. And so but you kind of already covered all that. So
Good, perfect. Thank you so much for helping me remember. Anything else? Those were the questions I had.
Put one more on my, please, Gotcha. No, please.
Yes, I was also wondering if there, you know, to that last point that NCAPRD is just a part of Clackamas County, is there some sort of overarching, you know, way that all the different parks departments, you know, the cities and everything all collaborate with each other?
Good question. I'm not aware off the top of my head. I know that the different, again, it's funny that you mentioned this on a more global scale of like the state. It's very divided by those sections, like aquatics, sports, and rec. So there are usually monthly meetings. So like aquatics has a monthly Zoom where we all talk and share. So a classic thing is like Bend Parks and Rec is going to roll out a sensory swim. Shh, I didn't tell that out loud. But they just interviewed me last week because they heard me speak about this at one of our monthly Zooms, you know, and equally as much, I stole this obviously from McMinnville, who was already doing it, you know. So we do tap each other in that regard to a lot of sharing of knowledge and what things are successful. So each one of those typically have a monthly meeting, and then annually there's a big conference. But that's about the extent of it that I'm aware of in terms of collaboration. You know, there are challenges. Some of our local areas, especially in Parks and Rec, like don't have pools. And other ones don't have turf fields or have gyms and so forth. But typically I would say, and I'm going to generalize here, which I know is never good, but I think all the Parks and Recs are currently, for the most part, overtapped. You know, like our swim lessons right now, my winter season, which is January through March, has 1,200 people on the wait list. And we already upped our numbers, like what I thought was already a crazy amount. And so like spring, we're going to start doing swim lessons on Sunday mornings. I never thought I'd see the day, right? It just, to me, who's going to come on Sunday morning? Turns out you can sell all of Sunday morning and the entire spring out in 8 minutes. So like 800-ish spots of lessons were sold out in under 8 minutes to the entire community. And that's all residents. And again, now we're going to have another 12 to 1,600 people on the wait list. Just hoping that there is more funding, more staff, more space, the big three. We're just waiting for that benefactor to come rolling in anytime now, who's just like, here's $1 billion. Please make the world a better place. And we would do it.
Ways and means. Amy Butler, did you have your hands up, or was that just a hi?
No, that was just me being sassy, saying I would bring my kids on a Sunday morning to teach them how to swim. Yes. Yes.
So I will point a provision, Jason, for your notes on what you said and how fast it sells out. And congratulations, it's commendable. Those with disabilities sometimes can't get technology that fast. And there's other ways of doing it. I mean, I can do it easily. Some ways, get that flash at fame so quickly that I get the privilege of being with a high end whatever of where I can get my education somewhere else, kind of thing. But it is a reminder to put into the notes that sometimes that technology, and I don't know if we do it by lottery. I don't know. That's something that the culture has to go throughout. The whole thing, because there are other people not experienced at 1,200, you said. So I just want to point that out, just to make sure those people are protected on the highest end of needs within how we go through that. And then I had one more note. On your conferences that you are going to, do they have referral for papers that you can maybe send to Amy and the district in ways that we might be included in those conversation spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely forward you the contacts for the Oregon Parks and Recreation. So I'll make a note of that and send it off to Amy as well.
Okay. And then I talked about tech issues too as well. How can we help relate to you and the pressures that you have to go through with other park and rec districts people in ways that you guys have a lot on your plate? And I do feel on the non-disability side, or some of my friends on the non-disability side that work in parks and rec, doing mermaid training to other stuff, how can we best support you guys without, overreaching our privileges sometimes?
No, that's a huge question that I would need to ponder some. So let me think on that, John. I think at a minimum, just being a fan of Parks and Rec really helps, and being patient, with realizing there are the limits, and that we're definitely trying our very, very best. But let me think on that one some more too.
I would definitely love to know how we can fulfill the need of the community that sometimes they may not be able to, sometimes in ways of, certain languages I've just recently read versus what the reality is versus what we can go for the future. I appreciate your time. Any other follow-up questions in ways that we might be able to talk to Johnny or other conversations if this is still an interest for this council? I see you, Kim.
I just have a question. So for Jason, I know little less than nothing about Parks and Recs and how it's structured and stuff. Is there an advisory council to the Parks and Rec?
So yeah, we have a district advisory committee, and so
Okay.
Yep, and so they go through kind of a process, and they're, I think, zone based is the best way I could describe it, of residents that live within the district, and then they advise to the Board of County Commissioners. So the Board of County Commissioners are ultimately our overseeing board. Basically, they will, if you've seen, I'm sure you've seen the budget means everything, they will gavel out of one mode and gavel in as our board of directors, I think is what they actually called at that juncture. And then they put on their pretend hats and they're North Clackamas at that point for that portion of the meeting. Then they'll gavel that one closed.
Okay. I just was wondering about people having access to provide that feedback to, it's great we sit here and give you all of our frustrations with North Clackamas Parks and Rec, but an actual avenue where that type of feedback could go as well, that would be formalized, I guess. And so do people have access through that avenue, through me coming to the advisory council, or just like you are coming here, we could go and people would have an opportunity to go and share their insights and stuff as well.
Yeah, to answer your question, Kim, yeah, I believe there is public comment allowed at both, unless it's an executive meeting, when they gavel in meeting mode. But otherwise, no, I think public comment is allowed at both those two. Either our advisory committee, they have public comment, and you fill out little cards and kind of queue them up, and then you get called up in front on the mic, the whole jazz of the board meeting. And then it's the same at, you've seen the BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, same thing. And so they have opportunities, I believe, at those two. So there are avenues for public comment, and I would imagine there's even potentially ways to work with your team to potentially get on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kim. Sarah, please.
Yes, thank you. And mine kind of was also going on the public comment kind of a thing, but a little bit different. And I know I completely hear the, overworked, understaffed, and budgeted, and I completely understand that and sympathize with you. My question was, is there any way that we can collaborate for like ideas or submit ideas of things we'd like to see, maybe, if possible? Not so much on like the county commissioner side, but maybe a little bit, like closer to, you as a manager or whatnot. Is there any place that we can kind of submit? Hey, for adults, we'd love to see this or that or whatever.
I don't think we have something like that yet, but I love that idea, and I'm prepared to steal it, Sarah. Again,
Go for it.
It's all those things of time, money, and everything. But I would love the idea of, I think what I'm hearing is like a think tank or a brainstorm, opportunity, and how we could potentially organize that and hopefully convince people to go to it. That's always the second half of it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. It always cracks me up. We'll host like public events, like we're planning a park. I went to one of these once, and I was all prepared to do an activity for kids, hopefully to be there. And it was crickets. I mean, it was us standing next to a pile of dirt and no one comes. I think everyone in this room that works for Clackamas County has probably been at one of those meetings where you're just like, I was so ready for this moment. And then the public doesn't show up, But that being said, I think that's another one. I'll put it on the list just to make sure, I share those thoughts and ideas from you guys, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's great. And I think on my side on that point was, who would you like us to contact? County program wise, city wise, legislative wise, or beyond input action committee? But it sounds like you need input first before you go to action.
I think that's a great starting point. I think I've gotten a lot of notes today, and I appreciate it. And so that's it. Again, I fully admit we're rookie to this. We're definitely just starting what I see as a marathon. This is just the beginning, and so it's a long race, and it will far outlast me. But my hope is that I want to participate as much as I can within the constructs of money and time.
And as someone who's been in this field for maybe 10 years and advocating for the last 4 or 5 years, Jason, can you help me maybe in my own psychological experience and stuff in understanding why it takes sometimes county workers so long to create constructive relationships in different departments, and how for me who had other opportunities outside of, the disability field, can forgive or understand better, in a way the marathon just starting today than maybe of the past, in ways that many employees been working for 20 years to yourself. I mean, it would help me. I know you can't fix everything with me, but it would be nice to know, while we try to get finances and opportunities and input and stuff like that, to understand where you and others who are just not starting their careers, but, doing the career skill set in ways that we could have maybe done this many years ago.
Yeah, I don't think I have a clear answer on that for sure. I can say for me, I was promoted into a new position, which gives me a lot more, I'd say, latitude, and I prioritize these things. You know, I think I'm a huge fan of trying to do as much as I can. And so, you know, that's where you see, you know, versus in my previous many years with the Parks District, I was more on, I would say, a grunt level or a worker bee, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. I have magical memories and I appreciate every one of those moments, but it makes a difference when you roll into a manager position. You know, I don't have a lot of clout, but I have a little clout, just enough to say, hey, I want to recommend this and I'll find the money in the budget to make it happen. And so my hope is, I think, I like to think every generation and every group of people kind of coming up through the conduit, if you will, like my two boys, they're going to do better. They're going to do better. I have high hopes that we'll just keep improving. But no, to fully answer your question, I can't really speak to the many years before me and the people before me. They made decisions they may have been good, bad, or indifferent, but I plan to do better.
Well, good. I just wanted to make sure that we try to find that pathway in the ropes in between, where maybe some people have opportunities and others may have, you know, grown the opportunity. So thank you for your time and effort. Do you have any other questions for us?
I don't think so at all.
And does the county have any questions for us or Clark Park if the council decides to go forward with this type of collaboration? I don't hear anything. So I think we're gonna move on. Thank you for being a guest, Jason. I think you're one of the first guests for this council. I mean, there might have been, there's Ash Kane, but you know, at least, you know, local wise, I appreciate you guys taking the step up, and hopefully we will get to talk to you guys and get some more questions and more collaborations in between.
Sounds great. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jason.
You're very welcome, Amy. Thank and everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Okie dokie. I appreciate the time. I hope you guys regain some more perspectives and more hope within Clackamas County and the offerings. I know it's difficult, definitely when there's already a wait list for other people in other communities. So I appreciate the time. Next on the agenda list, or should we have more collaboration on that conversation? Or how to move forward on it? Would you guys like to move forward on it? Question to the whole council. Or the county. I
think we're at time. Do we need to move on to the next agenda?
We do, but I want to make sure that we continue the topic point if that's what the council would like. Or if we don't, then I need to think of something for the next couple of months. So
I just hope that it results in some new programming, and you know, I hope that they reach back out and if they need any assistance in creating that.
Right. Sasha, thank you very much for cutting in. I'll take that as you know, record and ways to continue that conversation.
Yeah.
Next topic point, since we're at time, is the SWADAC, I believe, and Westland Adult or some program, a community center.
Yeah, and John, I do need to let you know it's Schwartz.
Schwartz, sorry, thank you.
It's okay, no problem at all. Yeah. And I always tell people I'll take it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Oh, you deserve more respect than that. That's on me. You're gonna have to remind me like Schwartz.
You're fine. It's plain old Schwartz. That's all it is. Please. So anyway, yeah, I met with well, I shouldn't say I talked to on the phone while I was driving to work, because that's when she called me, the Nicole Budden, who is the activities director for the senior center. And I had known her before because she owned a riding facility called Happy Trails on Rosemont Road in West Lynn. And my daughter had taken lessons there years and years ago. And sadly, she does not have that anymore, but she has a heart for people with disabilities and wants to promote inclusion and keep looking at ways to have more activities. So I talked to her about the dance that was coming up. This was the Mardi Gras dance. We talked before that. And I mentioned the idea of wanting to consider not necessarily having events that are teens and adult together. And I don't know if she was open to the idea to doing that in the future, but she did. She listened very carefully to my comments on that. And I can reach out to her again about that. There will probably be 2 more dances this year. I don't have the dates for those yet. One of the things though that in terms of teens and adults, she did say that at one of the dances, there were National Charity League teenagers who went and volunteered at the dance. So I'd rather see that sort of interacting with other teens instead of with the adults. So, but just something to, oh, you're good. You're good. I think it's really good to start the conversation with people to say it would be better to keep adults with adults, for every reason. Anyway, so we talked about the dances for a couple minutes, and then we talked about how could we add more activities. And she immediately offered an afternoon. This would be something just to, start a discussion, an afternoon, preferably Friday, for adults with disabilities to come to the community center, to the adult. She only she only works with the adult community center. So, but to come to the community center for social time that she would facilitate. She'd have to, again, get approval for this and everything, but this was an idea that she came up with immediately. And the only issue is that it would have to be early enough in the afternoon because she leaves, I forget, I think she said she's done at 3 on Friday. So obviously that might interfere with certain people's schedules.
Yeah.
But I can get further details on that if you guys are interested in pursuing that in any way. Regarding other activities, it was interesting to hear North Clackamas talk about staffing. And it sounds like so many of their programs are, I'd call it inward run, where the staff take care of it, the staff facilitate it, the staff set it up. It sounds like that's what I was getting from what I heard from him. Nicole said that for West Lynn, it's kind of the other way around. Because I mentioned Shasta, I mentioned Hillsborough, and I mentioned the idea of all these great activities that they had. And she said the way that they work is they have, rather than staff coming up with ideas, they have teachers from the general public coming to them and saying, we want to do this. And then they'll look at, is it, applicable for the area, and do they have space? But they would be excited to entertain basically pretty much anything, as long as there's someone coming forward who would lead it, who would facilitate it, which I thought was an interesting kind of the opposite. And then let's see, I have not reached out to West Lynn, Lake Oswego, and Oregon City yet, but I would be happy to do that over the next couple months. But that's just one little, in a nutshell, what the senior center does. And interesting looking at their model versus other ways, staff driven versus public driven. That's what I have.
Any follow-up requests outside of my hand? Please, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah, for getting that information. First off, I think that actually the idea of just a social time is a great one. I think a lot of times, sometimes pre-planned activities where you have to go do this or do that, and really the individual may not want to do that. They just want to be there to visit. So I think that if you have a structured activity, there isn't time to just visit and hang out. And
sorry, as my ear just came out. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. And
I think that is a great idea. I just want to put my 2 cents in on that.
Awesome. Yeah, I liked it too. I liked it. And it is something that I would talk to my daughter about participating in, if we could get it going off the ground.
There's a lot of people I feel like are interested in, just not outside diversity, equity, inclusion, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever he called it too. I believe there's a lot of interest in other community partners that are not just IDD focused sometimes. And I just feel like it's hard to sometimes bust that wall open in ways of them being included in that. Now, for me, I'm not into maybe segregated groups of disability only. That's not my expertise. And that's why you guys are important to, to communicate this to me in ways of trying to, lead this conversation. But things like YMCA coming through in the programming, things like Metropolitan Family Services, the SUN program, and another program with, after school care, not care, but after school, events. those things are the things that kind of interest me. Definitely when they're also becoming into informational sessions within legislation, like the YMCA, you know, and other partnerships. So to me, it's important to have that, and also to also communicate to in this conversation why it's important to have those groups within a certain purview if it's at a senior adult center. So, you know, that has its question marks, or, you know, other community partners that might be interested. So my question to you guys as a council, should we include West Lynn, Lake Oswego, and other aspects in the conversation space as we include Clackamas Parks and Recs, or should we only keep it at Clackamas Parks and Recs and make it a start in ways of trying to expand opportunities for those with disabilities in the next month or two ahead? Inviting them to these type of meeting spaces. Sasha?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they're pretty disjointed, you know, they don't talk to each other. And so if we're gonna get them to do these sorts of programming, then we have to kind of meet with each one of them.
Please put that in a note so, you know, co-chair and chair can make those type of, you know, requests within county. I think that's great. Sarah, thanks. I forgot the last name. Sorry, Sarah.
Schwartz.
Schwartz,
Just
Schwartz.
think plain old Schwartz.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for the work that you put it into this. I think we're at time. If I see my calculator, right? Or yep. And we're ready for upper updates with Amy.
I don't have many more updates than I had last month. As far as the provider engagement project, the one that's working with our foster and group homes, I believe that the steering committee has been selected and they are meeting in the next week and a half or so. And so that's the group that's actually going to be kind of the kind of solution focused group, and they're going to start working on some of these kind of problem areas that they have discovered that are kind of problem areas for foster and group homes, as well as our service coordinators and other staff. So so that's kind of exciting. They're getting to the part of that work where we maybe get to start finding some solutions to some of the hiccups that we're facing. So that's pretty exciting. That's starting very soon. As far as the emergency funding grant, that one, we're still going through some back end authorizations on the county side. And then we are also doing some research on what options we have available as far as supplies, supply kits, all of the different things that we might be able to have access to. And so we're still kind of researching that and trying to figure out what the best way is to figure out what people actually need, so that we can distribute things in an equitable way that people actually need. So that's kind of where we're at on that one. Does anybody have any questions? I know that was really vague, but it's kind of the stage we're at. John?
Advocate wise, on the emergency kits, I know you guys probably have another 2 months until you figure out the final outcome, but are all levels going to be included within those kit requests, or is it going to be separated to just certain people that only may or may not be able to receive them because of certain restrictions?
I believe that, and
At least in
somebody
this
correct me if I'm
part.
wrong, I believe everybody is eligible for those
Okay.
kits. If you guys would like, Tim and Georgetta mostly, but are working on a lot of the ARPA grants.
Yeah.
Tim's working on the provider engagement project, but Georgetta is doing both of those. And so they can come speak in more detail at the next meeting if you guys would like more in-depth information on that. So that's an option.
Do I
Something to
hear
think
any
about.
head nods on that, or should we just let it upon program updates? Question mark.
I think it might be interesting
Okay.
if they have time to
Please
hear what
do.
they're
Yeah,
working on.
They definitely said they would have time and wouldn't mind coming to visit one of our meetings.
All right, sounds good. Good on my end. Makes my job easier a little bit. All right. I think that's all the question I had on that one on ARPA. Anything we need to know on if any new employees are coming in because of the ARPA funds?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll move on then to the our informational fair. So we have a date and a venue. So our date for our DD info fair is going to be June 22nd of 2024. And we're going to have it at the Gregory Forum at the Clackamas Community College. So that's super exciting. We can have 36 partners, community partners joining us total. So we are going to be, I think we actually meet this week for our next planning meeting. Yep, the 28th. So day after tomorrow. I think you guys are all on that invite. You're more than welcome to join. It's going to be a lot of planning. So any and all suggestions, helpful guidance, volunteering, all is appreciated. So please join us if you want. If you need the link again, let me know and I can resend it to you. But that's super exciting. And hopefully we'll have some good weather for that too. Along with that, we are out of our DD brochures. So the things that we hand out at these types of events and if people come into the office. And we are pretty close to getting our new ones printed. And so we'd like to run that by you guys when they're almost ready for print, so you guys can take a peek. We did a little bit of adjusting to the words and used some more like plain language and things that we thought might be a little bit more accessible. So we'd love to share that with you guys if you guys are interested in taking a peek at that. I don't know when it'll be. I think we're really close to having things kind of finalized. We have to work with PGA. So we have a department that kind of does all of our printing and things and make sure that we're, in compliance and things like that. So, but we'd love to share that with you guys first if you guys would be interested in seeing that.
I think that would be great.
Great.
Are we doing any program update today? Or are we gonna just put this for ARPA?
I don't think we had one. We didn't have one on the agenda, but
I'm not demanding. I'm just wondering if there's any pressing news the council should know about.
I'll let Stacy and Kim speak if they want to, but not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Mimi?
Hi, this is question for maybe Stacy or Brooke or Kim. It's just, I just want to start by saying, I understand caseworkers have big load of work from so many providers. At the same time, it's from me and other providers, what I am seeing is communication issues, like not responding for our calls or emails. It's been challenging so far. So it's a common theme when I communicate with other providers, like we needed assistance. Maybe some of them are urgent, some of them are connected to licensing, some of them are even day-to-day communication with our clients. We may need documents and stuff like that. So is there any way that can be improved and like taking responsibility, So that's a question.
My quick answer is yes, it can be improved. Responsiveness is something that we are focusing on. That's what I'll add, and I'll let Kim see if she wanted to elaborate on that. But responsiveness coming out of the pandemic is one of the program areas we are trying to focus on. And it might, what you experience in our program might depend on different work units that you're in. If you have a child in service versus an adult versus residential, some of those things. The other thing is we want to know about that when these things are happening so that we can address them. But it absolutely is one of the things that we're focusing on improving in our program.
Yes, what she said.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I mean, thanks for bringing it up and sharing.
Yes, thank you.
Stacy and maybe Kim, I want to jump in really quickly. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand. Is that something that is going to go, is going to be discussed during the steering committee? Or is it just going to be provider stuff? Or do you think that'll be, because I know that was one of the areas of concern. I don't know how to say that, but I do know that there was relationships between service coordinators and providers that was on as the outcome of that. So I'm just wondering if maybe they'll discuss that during the steering committee. Anybody know?
I don't know that, but I think Brooke might be able to either confirm, deny, or say what that it might be an appropriate conversation for the steering committee, but I think communication in general. Go ahead, Brooke.
Yes, I will just say, I think you're on to something, Sarah. So,
Okay.
and I think you're on something. So
I am. So I was just curious if maybe that will be addressed indirectly in the future. So
yeah, I think that will be part of the discussion of what feels like communication issues and how that plays out, what it looks like in people's experience of it. And then what are we going to do about that? So yeah, thank you.
I can definitely stay on the advocacy side, knowing what level to communicate and what, and understanding, communication gaps. Do want to thank exclusively Brooke for coming in. I know that you have to do your job, and I appreciate you coming in for this type of conversation. So thank you. Definitely knowing post-COVID options would be nice to still be communicated with. So, and others who put forth to that question, I appreciate it. Any other questions on programming and updates and communication methods that we would like to get through for today? Yeah, please.
I had a question on the DD director. Do we know who the new one is yet?
Not, that was my
No.
next question, and that's exactly where I was going to go. So thank you.
I know we did the town hall and we were down to the 2 candidates, but I can't remember what they initially said that the deadline would be. I know it got pushed back though, so I was wondering if the county knew when to anticipate that news. Nobody knows.
Unless, yeah, please, Sasha.
Yeah, I talked to the recruiter. I'm just trying to find our email of when she said it was going to be. I feel like it was mid-March or something. So
Yeah, I heard like end of February, mid-March is what I've kind of gotten handle of the last couple of days. But yeah, end of the month. I don't know if it was March or February. Most likely they pushed it back. That's what going on. But any updates on that end would be good from Clackamas County perspective for the next meeting. Thank you for the question. That was my next one. All right. Well, looks like we have an open floor today at 5:45 or so. So
okay, so the recruiter said, great question. Once the selection is made, we have a few processes to follow up before announcing the candidate. The processes are related to offer and HR processes and overall hiring. Once all the details are finalized, we will make the announcement. This can take a few weeks.
Yeah.
And that was February 6th.
yeah.
No. Okay, and then I just had a question on the case managers send out a monthly like resource list. In my experience, it hasn't been all that resourceful, but be that as it may, it would be great if these meetings were on that. Just to give people an idea that they could show up and they could, have their issues addressed. So that would be cool. And then also adding, the agenda to the website as part of the workflow for sending out the emails would be great too, because I see that the February one isn't on the website right now.
Oh, good to know that. So it's not on the public page of the council structure?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And definitely the adaptive agenda too. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for telling me that. I'll try to remember that. No, we got a lot of numbers to remember, but I'll try to remember that.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know if there's a workflow or something that we can just add it to
Nope,
the
that's
list.
me. I missed getting it to PGA, so I'll get that up.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
And thank you for the resource email feedback. We can, yes, we can take that back to our service coordination teams about sharing that as well.
I'm kind of lost. Are you talking to Stash on the resource line?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of willing people out there. I just hope that we can collaborate without overstepping our arches. All right. Should we cut the meeting 15 minutes short? Unless anyone else has anything, sir? Amy?
Yeah, I did have one thing that I think we talked about in the planning meeting, which was if the council wanted to get to know any other parts of the DD program. So we have different kind of like, we have licensing, we have abuse investigations, we have our children's team, we have our adult in-home team, we have a residential and foster team. So we have a bunch of like sub teams within our program. Our program is like 100 people big right now, which is the biggest it's ever been. So I wanted to put out there that if you guys wanted to hear from any other parts of our program or get to know any of the parts of our program, and have them speak to kind of what we do, so you guys kind of know what our program does. People would be interested in that. And if so, are there specific areas that you'd be interested in hearing from first? We can invite all of them and just kind of stagger each of those different kind of sub units of our program. Sarah?
I think
Sarah
that's a
L.
good
first.
idea. Oh, I think that's a good idea. Definitely, I'd like to hear from licensing. I think maybe the council, and I don't want to speak for all of us, but maybe even the abuse investigator. So I have a unique question. And of course the name just whooped right out of my brain, but the other protective service group that I know is indirectly connected to the county. It's the big organization. Sorry, I'm blanking. We have the posters up in our adult foster home.
Otis? Is it the state?
The ombudsman?
Ombudsman, thank you.
Ombudsman.
It's the ombudsman. So I have some concerns about them and their procedures visiting adult foster homes, specifically, like our DD homes, unannounced. And so I don't know if it's if we'd be able to maybe invite them here to kind of just see what their goals are, what they're looking for. And the reason I say this is because particularly I have what's considered a 2B home, where our focus is more behavioral individuals, clients. Sometimes, and my family does this as well. And so sometimes in that, an individual could be having a really challenging day, like really challenging. And to have somebody pop in unannounced could just have a tailspin. I mean, it could end up being a really, really bad thing. And it actually happened recently. That's why I'm saying this. So in a family home happened, and they showed up unannounced. The individuals was having a really big flare is what it's called. And it could have been catastrophic, and they had to turn ombudsman away, which is usually frowned upon. They're supposed to be allowed access no matter when they come. So it became kind of a thing. So I'm just curious, how do we find out? How do we find out what their goals are? Do they communicate with service coordinators before they come to the home? I would just like more information, and I did ask if they communicated to service coordinators to a service coordinator, and they said not to their knowledge. So I think that'd be an important piece. Like, why don't they collaborate more with the county? I guess is my council hat. What's their collaboration efforts to make sure they're not causing more harm by ensuring people are, being treated fairly? So any thoughts?
Chair Schwartz, is that on the topic, or would you be okay if I cut in? And then Kim can.
No, absolutely. Go ahead and cut in, John.
All right, should we, Sharon Lambert, should we put, the state representative and the county resource representative as a council, or should we just make this still just council related resources that would help you the best to get a full view within the abuse investigation process?
I'm not sure. I don't know. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the ombudsman is connected to the county.
Okay.
No, okay. So I don't know how we would go about getting more information from them, introducing ourselves to them to us. I'm not sure. I'm open to any suggestions. It just seems like it was an interesting thing that hasn't been breached that maybe we should kind of look into.
There's a couple conferences I can think in mind, but I'll put that off public record in ways that we can have that conversation even in here. Kim?
I think Sarah was ahead of me.
Well, okay, Kim, I thought you were responding on the last comment, that's why.
Well, I'll respond to Sarah, but to Sarah Lambert, but I just wanted to make sure that.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Mine is really quick. You go ahead. You're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the state ombudsman for the long-term care residential ombudsman office, is the at the governor's level, right? They're up there. They are tasked with investigating complaints from anywhere regarding, usually individuals in service or their legal representatives, but I know that they can come from many different places, but complaints in facilities. They don't have to come to us. They don't need to come to us. It's not a requirement that service coordinators be involved, and depending on the complaint, right? And we often are, sometimes after the fact, and then they in their role again may reach out to us as service coordinators to ask what we're doing, how are we observing, monitoring, what are we observing, monitoring, and Ken can speak to that. They also will reach out to them to the abuse investigation team, which Ken supervises, to include them in their concerns. They don't direct our work, but they have their own office, and that they may make requests, recommendations, things like that. But they can come at any time, just like licensing, just like an abuse investigator. They have that authority to come at any time, and typically, since they're coming because there's been a complaint or a concern raised to their office, it's likely, I can't speak for them, but it's likely that's why they're coming unannounced, is they're not gonna, so, but that's what I know about the work they do. I know, who our representative is in our area that we work with on a regular basis. They're very present, and have a lot of thoughts and opinions, and so I think what might be something, to your point, I don't know if the entire council wants to look at that, but if that is something, that's fine. We could ask her to come and talk about her role and explain it. It might be something she may or may not agree to, is to maybe come to a foster provider meeting. I mean, it's various ways, but
if you would like to put that under the notes, Kim, Kota, in ways of remembering that, Sharon Lambert, if you'd like to put an email to Amy Butler in ways to remind us this is a topic that's passionate to you, and we can find that in the construction of Clackamas County guests coming in, I would appreciate that in ways that we can continue this conversation, because it is important. And I just want to make sure that other members feel comfortable in putting their own, request in with Clackamas County reps also within this conversation space, and how we can continue that conversation. And if you're looking for a state resource within a county important conversation within a county resource, that too, I think can see happens. Does that meet your concerns, Sarah Lambert?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to understand their role and know where to go to get that information. And if that was somebody that we should invite in also, like licensing or abuse.
Yeah.
And particularly because this one, the individual said they were just popping into everyone's home just to introduce themselves and get to know people. It wasn't even a complaint based. So I was just curious. It's an entity I only know about on paper. So
we're not included in all the RAC committees and all the important conversations. So I understand that. Just short, got it correctly this time.
Got it. Mine was just like, I can see value in all the teams. I mean, whoever has time, whoever's willing to come, they're all topics I think it would be good for the council to be aware of in terms of their various roles and stuff. My personal selfish ones would be licensing and foster care, residential care and stuff, because I'm looking at that for the future for my daughter. So, but sorry, I can't talk anymore today. All of the different offices would be valuable, I think, for the council to hear from, even if just very briefly.
So maybe foster home's not my thing. I would definitely love to have blueprints of what your dream place for your person, or people with disabilities, in ways of spacing and certain roommates and other considerations within those type of decision making. But I hope we can bring some of those foster homes and other reps within that those concepts as we build forward the relationship as a council and as a as a offering of what we do. All right. I think for myself, I am done on my listing. Any, I guess what I should ask is there any member of the public that would like to speak? Or Kim, would you like to introduce the person behind you? Or I'm not trying to put it out, but I just want to point out, there is another member that outside the council that may want to speak for 20 seconds.
Yeah, I can keep it to 20 seconds. Hi, everybody.
Oh,
My
you can
name
do
is
it to
Ken.
5 minutes if you want, but
Yeah, I'm Ken Hansen. I supervise the abuse investigations team, so I'm happy to hear that it may be of some interest to learn more. And feel free to reach out to me as well anytime if you have specific questions. But yeah, it's good to be here. John and I met a few months ago, or not. Geez, I don't know. It's probably been a while now, but
it's been a while.
Anyway, it was a very good conversation we had. So I'm happy to share more and hear from you all as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for the reminder. We try to stay on top of all of our topics. All right. Any good of the order? I have my one story, but anyone else would like to put good of the order? I don't see any hands. For me, I will.
Oops, John just went on mute.
Thank you. For me, it's to compliment Oregon City's bowling team in ways of state competition and seeing content within that high school wise. It may not. This is not disability related, but kind of in ways of leadership and seeing people grow their skill sets. The coach in particular, the boys coach, was the one that kind of helped me get Dave Hughes' program, situated for those with disabilities a couple of years ago, though it may or may not be still a possibility. But it's awesome to see former classmates and other people around the community, contribute in what they do. And the other one will be with Wilsonville and cheerleading in particular, though it wasn't disability related. It was great to see parents when people in state were waitlisted with teams. It was great to see the community come together in ways of try to make an action and provide opportunities for the kids. So for me, those were very cool little things around the community that I saw that may or may not be related into our side, but we can still get full inclusivity within our own personal stories and still relate it to those with and without disabilities. So That's the good of the order that I have. All right, call to close the meeting.
I just wanted to make sure that Sarah, I put the link to the long-term care ombudsman's office, and it has if you go to that page, it has all of the three parts of that office, and one of them is the residential facilities ombudsman. I can't say that word very well. And it just it talks about the three offices in the ombudsman's office there, to give just the general website facing information anyway. So that's what that link is to the Oregon Long-Term Care Ombudsman's Office.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I did write it down, so I'm going to give it a look-see. Thanks,
Just want to
Kim.
make sure everybody knew what that was.
I thank you guys all for your work and what you guys do. We do need to close out the meeting officially. Amy, you have less than 1 second. And ways no, what I mean is as you enjoy your being on time thing. Anyone want to call this meeting to adjourn? We will need a first and a second and a vote out.
I'll give it a first.
All right.
Second.
Conversation, no. A vote, first, second. I will first the vote. And just need a second for the vote.
Second.
And yes or no, I vote yay. Thumbs up, yay.
Yay.
Whatever.
Yay.
Bye. I think everyone does want to leave. Enjoy your night and thank you for the work you guys do. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy your night.